Okay, we're here, we're live. It's Wednesday on Community Matters. We have, guess what? Leslie Wilcox, President and CEO of PBS Hawaii. Wow, wow. Thank you for being here, Leslie.
Thank you, Jay. It's great to be here.
We have Ben Nishimoto, Vice President of Advancement of PBS Hawaii. Thank you for being here, Ben.
Thanks for inviting us.
So today we're going to call our show New Ways, Same Ideals here on Community Matters, and that refers to PBS. So we're going to explore today what the new ways are, and we're going to explore the ideals too, and the production values and standards that come from far away.
Well, we know we're always going to have, as much as we can afford, the latest technology, and technology will always evolve. But I think our some of our traditions will change, but the values are not going to change because we feel like there aren't enough of people upholding those values in a world that's rapidly changing. And we're so privileged that we get to be part of a public television station that is non-commercial and we're not politically or commercially driven, which is a rare joy because most people have to worry about those things. And we just, what we worry about is keeping everything fair and inclusive and hearing voices that aren't often heard.
And the sum total is nutrition, intellectual nutrition. I can tell you this because my wife is intravenously glued to PBS.
Yay, thank you.
You can hardly separate her from it. She's got so many programs that she watches.
Well, our business is education, and people deliver education in different ways. The way we do it is with quality storytelling that we hope profoundly touches and perhaps even transforms lives.
It does. I absolutely agree with that. And I think that we've got to have that in our community. We should have more of it. We should have it all around us, but we don't, so we have you. So keep on trucking, what can I say?
Like I said, we're privileged because we don't have the same pressures to make 20% more per year for our shareholders or play to this political sector. In fact, if we do that, we've done a bad job.
Yeah.
We shouldn't exist.
Yeah. Anyway, as I said, it's wonderful to have you here in our little studio. It's so nice.
Well, thank you for what
you.
you're doing. I think you have many of the same values, and what you're doing is you're informing people so that we can make better civic decisions and better business decisions. I personally don't like people telling me what to think. I like to get information and make my own decisions, and I hope that's what many other people are looking for.
I was thinking, Leslie, I mean, we can discuss this later in the program, but I was thinking that for a while here today, I'd like to interview you guys. And then at some point, you can interview me, because you're really good at that. And then Ben can interview both of us.
Sure.
What do you say?
It's my first time on camera, so I'll do whatever you folks tell me to do.
Okay, let's talk about the big news. You guys are moving, very exciting. Can you tell us why? Can you tell us how? And what it looks like in terms of when? And when I say when, I'm reading off our Twitter feed. It says, from Dania Katz, do you have a hashtag for your event? I think we do. I'd like to ask Leslie, when will you move to your new capitalized new facility? So can you include that in your answer?
Of course, we plan to move in May of next year, April or May. The construction gods willing. We're recycling an old building, the old K5 building at Nimitz and Sand Island Access Road, and we're putting a second story on it that'll cantilever out over the parking lot. And the idea will be to connect and convene people, we really want to get people together, whether it's virtually or physically, to talk to each other and share diverse viewpoints. We went around the islands asking young people what they want in a workplace, and that's how the building was designed with the help of Group 70 International.
Great idea, yeah.
So what they told us, and it sounded kind of cult-like, even though they're kids from all over the state, and what they said was, we want it to be cheerful, and we want it to be very transparent. We want to be able to see things happening around the whole building because everybody should work as a team. So we have glass walls and big open rooms. We have reconfigurable furniture so that you can decide whether, if Ben and I are going to have a meeting, we can just have 2 chairs, but there are all kinds of connections and arrangements for chairs and seating.
Very high-tech, very modern.
And and they also said, we want to know something about the building without you telling us about it. So we're going to be, our glass walls will have projections of ongoing social media, classic video, what we're running on the air at any given time, our online
Eye candy
productions.
everywhere.
Right, so that you'll always kind of be in the swim of things and always
Yeah.
be learning.
Yeah. So you, Ben?
Well, I was just going to add that, you know, our new building is going to have all these different co-working spaces, as Leslie mentioned, but it's going to resemble closely some of the working hubs that you see in Kaka'ako for younger or emerging companies, where collaboration is absolutely necessary, not necessarily among you know, within companies, but, you know, cross sectors, different types of people. So we're very deliberate, and our contractors and architecture consultants were really deliberate in making that type of design throughout the building.
Nothing could be more modern, more now than co-working.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you've seen Proto Hub over there.
Yes,
Yellow.
and that's how people want to work. I think in the beginning, and we are now in an older building that's a lot of, we don't have so much cubicles as we have office, you know, cube-like room. And I'm in one of the, you know, one of the offices, and I look out onto a parking lot in Bachman Hall, and I feel so, you know, I got to get out a lot because you really, I think people want to get a sense of what everybody else is doing. If you're going to work as a team, you learn a lot just by being exposed to what other people are doing. We had staffers who were concerned that, you know, all the talking that without walls to protect them will be too loud and it'll be distracting. But, you know, people adjust. You learn to adjust your voice, and it's really, we've learned that the best ideas come from a diverse group. Because sometimes our engineers have way better marketing ideas than the marketers, and that works in many other ways. Lots of pollination.
As much as technology advances us, it can isolate us as well.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm not in, you know, you can get to the point where you're emailing someone who's 2 feet away from you, as opposed to talking because there's a wall in between. So, you know, hopefully getting back to that practice of talking to your coworkers, you know, making things more efficient, is something that we look forward to when we move in.
Isn't that
in
true?
spring
We forget
2016.
sometimes with the social media, we don't actually talk to each other. So a
And
better
you
space.
isolate yourself in other ways too. You friend people who have the same thoughts and beliefs you do, and you subscribe to informational feeds that have the same kinds of beliefs, and then pretty soon in this big wide world of all kinds of opinions and information, you're in your same, so we try to get people to just expose themselves to a lot of ideas. You don't have to agree or go along, but it's nice to listen
So
to each other.
you think the new space is going to, I can see it's going to change the way you deal with each other, you know, I mean, just because these little things have profound effect in the sociology. But what else? Is it going to change your programming? Is it going to change the way the user experience, so to speak, or the guest experience, or the host experience? How do you see, if at all, how do you see the new building, you know, unfolding in terms of the nature of your connection with the community?
Well, for one thing, our Hikino State Student News Network will be able to host groups of students coming in. We'll be on the bus line from the airport, and we'll have
great.
room to
That'll
bring
be great.
teachers and students together. And you know, that's another, it's just another extension of being able to bring people together to converse and to hear each other out. And especially with our second floor learning initiatives, there'll be there's a lot of sharing, and we think, and we're not just about let's share everyone, let's kumbaya. It's about where you get as a result of sharing.
Yeah. Oh, this is very exciting. I hope we can come and enjoy your opening with you.
You're on the list.
In March, because it May next year. So let's talk about how you're making that possible, because this is not cheap or free. You guys are a nonprofit, but you do have to raise money. You're very good at the way you put that on television. Viewers like you, I like that. But how do you raise big bucks in order to afford a multi-million-dollar building in a relatively downtown location, and do all the things you want to do to make it work perfectly? How do you raise it? And notice I'm looking at Ben the whole time, because I have found that the word advancement, vice president advancement, means vice president development and fundraising.
Well, it's a good question, because we, since our inception, we've been, you know, the term viewers like you is true, in that we've always been a grassroots organization. The bulk of our operating funds come from individual, foundation, and business support. from local foundations, about 40 to 45 local businesses that sponsor certain parts of our programming. We don't interrupt their programming, but we do acknowledge their support before and after certain programs. And then we have, between, at any given point, 12 to 15,000 individual supporters throughout the
grassroots
islands.
Yeah.
Extremely grassroots. Some of our favorite and most cherished supporters are those who have been giving to us $10, starting in the 1960s, and then they increased their support to $20 in the 70s, and they're at the point now where they're giving $65, which is a whole lot to them.
And
it's a
during
whole
the
lot to
recession,
us.
they'd write a note saying, "I'm sorry, I can only give you half this year." I mean, very personal.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Yeah, and people are really invested in Hawaii's only public television station, so we like to pride ourselves on that. For the past couple years, as we've been fundraising for our capital, obviously we need more funds. So we have been looking at foundations and businesses to increase their support.
That was a learning curve for us to go big with money raising.
right.
But it's still a
'Cause
large.
it's out there. Or it should
Yes.
be out there. They're watching.
It's still a largely grassroots campaign as far as capital campaigns are concerned, and we're very proud of that. And we've, at this point, our goal is $30 million to complete our fundraising for our new facility, and we're actually currently over 80% towards that goal.
Well, that's great.
So we're really grateful for the people of Hawaii for helping
Yeah.
us out over the past couple of years.
And again, it's mostly grassroots and foundations and business support. We're hoping to meet a few multimillionaires. That would be nice. But it's really nice to have a public television station that's funded by diverse income streams so that no one group can try to control you.
Yes. Well, I remember a conversation I had with Michael Titterton at Hawaii Public Radio. I said to him hypothetically, I said, suppose somebody really big with a big checkbook came one day, before your, on-the-air pledge drive was done, and said, Michael, I'm going to write a check for the whole thing. Just stop with your pledge drive. A lot of people want that, okay? And he said, would you take that check? I said, no. He says, because we believe, as a philosophical matter, we must be connected with grassroots. Remember, they're all listeners or viewers, as the case may be. So it's very important to us to have those smaller contributions coming in. Yes, we like the big ones, just as you say, Leslie, but the smaller ones are the ones that keep us connected as a media to the community. So,
And we
That's
cherish those smaller gifts because a lot of times it's their percentage of income that they give to us is larger than perhaps a major donor or something like that. So we understand that every gift counts and every gift advances our mission.
And it's so nice to be part of an organization where we try to be the rising tide that floats all boats. So there's no reason, rich or poor, powerful or not powerful, there's something you can have. It helps everyone.
Yeah.
And how many groups can you say that are able to have that platform?
you must love your work.
I do.
This is not like being a newscaster. This is different.
I love
You're
news,
running
too.
the whole gamut from A to Z, managing administration. God knows what functions are involved in all of that, and then interviewing and being the creative side. I mean, it's everything. How do you sleep at night? Honestly.
Sleep? Well, when I was a news reporter, one wonderful thing about that's you're being paid to learn as a news reporter, just as I get paid to learn as the CEO of PBS Hawaii. We all do. I got to meet people who are, in very diverse parts of the island, and I got to see many of them in emergency situations or at great celebrations, and it's really nice to get to know your local territory, because PBS stations across the country are all really innately local.
Yeah.
We have a PBS brand, which means we have certain traditions and standards, but we get to represent our community the way we see fit, because we know people and we invite them to share with
Right.
us. And that's how we differ from other commercial television stations, which have a different business model. And that's why we smile and when we come to work every day.
It's interactive. You're part of them and they're part of you. And there are certain things that happen that are really swell. One of the things that happens here that's really swell is we take breaks every 15 minutes.
I feel a break coming on.
That's Leslie Wilcox, who understands, President and CEO of PBS Hawaii, and Ben Nishimoto, Vice President of Advancement of PBS Hawaii. We're going to talk to them more about exactly what happens at PBS here on New Ways, Same Ideals, Community Matters every Wednesday. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Ethan Allen. I host Likeable Science on ThinkTech Hawaii, and I do this because I care about science literacy in Hawaii. I want to spread the understanding that science is a vital and interesting part of everyone's life. I want to make sure the broadest possible spectrum of people understand the beauty and the value of science and realize that science plays out each and every day of their lives. I want you to understand that science is fun. So we bring onto this show each week guests who are scientists, from astronomers to zoologists, and we talk about what they do and how they do it. But most importantly, we talk about why you should care about their work, why you should see that their work has value and impact on your life. So I hope you'll join us Fridays, 1 p.m. here on ThinkTech Hawaii. You can watch us via live stream. You can watch us recorded on Olelo, and you can see us each week. We hope you'll join us.
Okay, we're back. We're live with Leslie Wilcox, President and CEO of PBS Hawaii, and Ben Nishimoto, Vice President of Advancement of PBS Hawaii, talking about new ways, same ideals. So I guess I would follow that question, Leslie, is the new building going to change your life as the CEO and President?
Well, I'm going to be unleashed from my office, but my office will have a view of way more things. And, you know, the thing about CEO sounds so lofty, and really I see myself as
Such a nice person.
I see myself as a team leader, because television and media in general need to be agile. So it's not, you know, it's not this huge command and control organization. It's a team working together and collaborating. It's very flat. The information has to flow right across, or we're not at a competitive edge. So that's who I am, and I like being out and about and
Maybe it's
listening.
more of the same, or more of the same. Yeah. But you know, you talk about the flow of information, the creative team, and I wonder if you could talk to me about how you encourage creativity, how you express appreciation for creativity. You know, how ubiquitous is creativity in PBS?
You know what, and Ben knows this so well. We have a lot of creative people. They don't always agree, so disagreements are welcome. You just have to do it civilly. I mean, there's a lot of, I don't know how to describe it, but energy and inspiration when people come together, and when you're not forced to say, okay, sure, I'll get that done. You say, here's how we could do it, and somebody else actually says what's on their mind in a polite way, which essentially is, how about we do this? And ideas just flow, and you end up getting to a place that's so much better than if one artist were to have done it by themselves.
Yeah, and everybody enjoys in the psychic benefit, man.
And you know, working for a nonprofit, you probably know as well as we do that working for a nonprofit, you have to wear different hats. You can't work in silos just because your job description tells you you're supposed to be doing this, this, and this. And I think what spurs creativity is if you go outside of your job description, so to speak. So, you know, we have interdepartmental working groups. We just unveiled our brand new website, but that involved, you know, creative services, communications, advancement, admin. You know, it involves everyone. And so, you know, I'm involved in communications, and sometimes I'm involved in creative services.
Wait a minute, I thought you were the Vice President of Advancement.
Yeah, so
Sounds like
titles
you're
don't
going
mean
in
a whole
other
lot
directions,
with
man.
nonprofits.
And we only have 33 people statewide, so we're very lean for a statewide television station. And it works because we have a very good staff who wear multiple hats. And that, I think wearing the multiple hats may be a burden to some, but it's also, it allows you a lot of responsibility, which is cool, and a lot of power too, authority.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are
Empowered.
they're empowered, and they're empowered in a way that helps the organization move forward faster, because they figure out how to share well with a relentless focus of where you want to go.
You know, we always ask Leslie Ben in these shows, we always we find a place for it. It's the challenge question, okay?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. So, you got this, and I want to talk about your programs too.
This is for Ben, right?
Yeah, sure. Okay, this is for you, Ben. You know, you guys, you know, we talked about, you know, your relationship with the community and what you do for the community and all that, and how much you enjoy doing it. But what are the challenges? You know, I mean, she wakes up at night, sometimes she worries about things. What do you worry about? What are the problems?
Well, you know, in my role as Vice President of Advancement, my ultimate challenge is raising, you know, the necessary funds to advance our mission. And, you know, currently, we're really fundraising for 3 different pots because we do so much. We have our operating fund that, you know, funds our creative services and everything you see on our air that's supported by viewers like you.
Like
we also
me?
have, just like you.
Your wife.
Like your wife. But we also have Hikino.
I'm there with her, you know?
Okay, good.
We have Hikino, which is our statewide student news network. It started back in 2009, and it's still an entirely grant-funded project. So that's something that we have to fundraise on the side of what we normally do. But it's currently impacting 90 schools across 6 islands. We do a half-hour program on Thursday nights that showcases 6 or 7 different stories from different schools that are participating. And when you operate a statewide network with students, it's extremely labor intensive, but 2, it requires funding. So, you know, we're fundraising for that. And then, as we spoke about before, the capital campaign, that really.
So it's like you got 2 parallel fundraisers going on at the same time.
3, actually, yeah.
It's like the man with 2 heads, with three heads,
But, you know,
or woman.
they all reinforce each other. So everyone knows that by giving to the capital campaign, you're ensuring, you know, PBS Hawaii's future and the future of Hikino and the future of your favorite programs. So, you know, just keeping those 3 separate but intertwined is, I guess, our biggest challenge.
Yeah, okay, all right. No surprise. You agree with this, or you want to rebut what he said?
No, you know, the nice thing about fundraising is, one, I mean, I think nobody really enjoys asking for money, and in my case, I have to really believe in it or I can't, and I know it's not for me, but it's still hard to ask. But it is actually a pleasure to say what it's for and to execute. You know, you're responsible to your donors to do what you said you were going to do, and we like that because we are very focused, and we're open and we're focused,
Yeah.
and love that because you always know where you're going and why.
Yeah. I know why you're doing all this with Hikino and those kids. I know why.
Why?
You're trying to build a better state and future.
It is about community building. That's,
Yeah.
you know, I think what we do is we team community and well, media and education to create community. And that's what it's really all about. Many of our nonprofits in this state are about community building. We all do it different ways. We're fortunate to have a statewide reach, and I guess a global reach if you count online. So what we do is we say we use technology and touch to bring islands together, and that is really true, especially true with the students of Hikino who are in public, private, charter schools all over the state, from the tip-top elite Honolulu private school to the smallest public charter struggling school in a
90
rural area.
schools.
Yes, 90
Yeah,
schools.
Robert Pennybacker was here. He talked about it. We called the show Yes, Hikino.
That's right, can do. Yes, Hikino, I love that. You know, there's a great, the reason it's named Hikino is when we were at Waianae High School investigating the idea of could we go statewide with a digital media program like this. And of course, Candy Suiso of Waianae High School really showed what could be done. I was actually looking at the wall and somebody had written in marker, if can, if no can, no can. And I noticed that the students were really positive. I think they decided, you know, this baggage that our parents like me have, you know, the jaded part, we can't do that, we can't do this, that won't work. They didn't want to hear it. They can do. And so that's where Hikino came from, can do. And in doing this project, we've learned many variations of that. One is a principal in Ka'u on the Big Island says, if no can, how can?
Good. That's wonderful.
And Richard Haw of the Big Island
Sure.
says, he told me his father taught them this. He would say, not if can, can. and it's all about can do. And
Yeah,
it's a long time Hawaii expression.
Yeah, well, it's,
Hiki no.
those kids are really something, and the program is really something.
And you can't stereotype them. I mean,
No.
Some excellent, excellent private schools do well, but low-income districts with kids with a lot of dysfunctional homes are doing terrific work in digital media, and it's going to be their ticket to the future.
Sure.
Because that's a new literacy in the 21st
Are you seeing that
century.
happen?
We are seeing students who would never have dreamed of going to college, go to college, and we're seeing the subjects that they think they can master change too.
Yeah. And it's not just that they can hold a camera or edit,
No.
some footage. It's that they can actually approach somebody who they don't know, who is a newsmaker, and talk to them. And all the empowerment thing you talked about. And now it's all about confidence, right?
And communication.
And communication, right? Engagement.
And fairness.
And fairness.
You know, I have to say that when we first presented this to middle and high school students, they thought it was really novel, and all it was is traditional journalism, because they're so used to talk shows on some of the the hundreds of channels in the universe where people talk over each other and it's their opinions presented as fact. Well, on Hikino, you have to show diverse viewpoints, and you have to research them, and you've got to be fair to everybody. Not fair in the way of everybody gets equal time, but fair in the sense of what an issue, what matters in an issue.
That's part of something I wanted to get to with you, the standards. That'd be a PBS journalistic standard.
And they're adult standards these kids are meeting.
Yes. So what are those standards, and how much do they affect your work, and for that matter, Hikino's work?
They're traditional journalism. Well, first they're production standards. So production, they have to know how to shoot. And even small little flip cameras present. They do pretty good video. So they work on an HD television station. So production values, yes. You have to be able to write for the ear, and you have to be able to present visually. You have to show the results of interviews that you did, where you went out and you sought people who weren't normally interviewed or who had new viewpoints to share, and you have to tell the story well in a fair way. And you think about that, and that uses all critical thinking and technology and networking, and I mean all the requirements for the 21st century are there, including what we're told is the number one most asked for ability by employers these days, which is the ability to ask a good question.
We study that. We all study that.
Like you do.
And that's a perfect segue into the next thing I wanted to ask you about. Your talk show Island Insights, is it? Really important. It's a heavyweight anchor kind of show. Can you talk about that, how you designed it and developed it, how it is coming, how it is going, where the strong points are, where the work points are? It is a really important program, probably the most important news program that I can think of, and certainly that my wife can think of.
Well, again, not rocket science. Is something that's very traditional. It's essentially a talk show, but what we do is we bring people who oppose each other and who normally are never seen in the same room except, turning the other way.
You wonder if they're, if they've been beating each other up on the way into the studio.
Right. Well, often they have to show that they're bigger than their bitterness.
And you make them do that.
Well, they have to trust us to treat them right. And what we tell them is, there aren't time limits. There aren't a lot of rules except the rule of civility. This is civic discourse. So the viewer decides whether you're giving the other person enough time in a conversation, and you don't get to hog the show. You can try, but the viewer will be wise to you. We like it that we ask people to think on their feet and be respectful and present their point of view and listen to each other.
It's an hour-long live call-in program. So
wow, that's really exposing everyone
Exactly.
to everything,
So guests on the program, they can't hide behind talking points. So what happens is, throughout the hour-long conversation, it's an actual conversation. There's a back and forth. There's a more natural responses to questions, and the information that you get after watching that 1 hour is so much more than you can get from sound bites.
You also
that are
get to know the
manufactured.
players. You get to watch their moves. You get to.
You see how they treat
feel
people
them.
too, right?
Yes, yes.
You know,
What kind of people they
you
are.
realize when you watch some of the political, they're not traditional debates, they're conversations, but you see whether, what you want in a politician and an office holder is, they have to be willing to talk to people to move forward. And if you see them icing out someone in the conversation or being rude or, I mean, how are they going to get things done in a state that requires collaboration to move along?
And people, viewers, have to see that to make judgments, because people do need to make judgments in order to vote properly.
Well, the hardest thing is to get those people to the show, people who represent different viewpoints, who may have had history, who may not like each other, who may not want to listen to someone, but they have to come together, and that shows a lot of maturity and a lot of public interest, I think.
And after this break, we're going to find out how Leslie and Ben do get them to come.
That was a tease.
It's my
Great
cliffhanger. Leslie Wilcox, President and CEO of PBS Hawaii, Ben Nishimoto, Vice President of Advancement, and much more at PBS. New ways, same ideals here on Community Matters. We'll be right back.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevlin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday.
Aloha, my name is Miley Scarpino, and I'm the host of the Empower Hour. If you're interested in health, nutrition, fitness, here on the island of Oahu, want to learn more about places to train at or different trainers available, then watch my show on Fridays at 3. We have a great time, and I hope that you'll come join us. Much aloha. Now go get swole.
Okay, we're here, we're live with Leslie Wilcox. Leslie. President and CEO of PBS Hawaii, and Ben Nishimoto, Vice President of Advancement and more at PBS Hawaii, talking about new ways, same ideals. So yeah, I mean, can we do a how to do it for a moment here? How do you get them in? I mean, you know, to me, I think, you know, coming into PBS is like a great honor. So, you know, if you call me, I'll be there. but you know, what about some of the people who are afraid, you know, who are very lofty, who may not, you know, come so easily? How do you get to
You know,
that?
I think it's building a reputation for being fair, and we just try to treat them right, and we don't have an interest in who does better than anybody else. It's, you know, people are seated at a table, everybody has the same rules of civility, and it's up to them to make their case and listen to each other. You know, sometimes people appear at our table who have actually never met in person, but they've developed an intense dislike for each other. Sometimes we have to put them in different rooms before the show. But once they talk to each other, you know, there's something about meeting somebody who disagrees with you, and it makes it a little harder many times to demonize them. So we see some transformations happening during and after programs.
Yes, that's true. There's a secondary effect there. They actually touched each other somehow, and now they have this common, you know, I always say that these talk shows, you never forget. Nobody forgets. It's like a life experience. So even if you're arguing with a fellow on the other side, you remember that conversation. Now you have something in common. You can both carry that away, and maybe you'll be more friendly the
And
next
you're all,
time.
to an extent, you're all, so to speak, naked, because, you know, you're right in front of the blazing cameras, and you don't know what questions are going to be asked you, but you're there because you want to inform the public and present something that allows people to make up their own mind. And everybody comes there in that belief.
It's the structure.
And that's how life used to be, I think, but we've gotten to polarizing issues and people.
A lot of TV does that. You know, they want the raw meat.
They want the drama, but you know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's all about getting it together,
Yeah.
and being real, not patronizing, not mean, just talking it out.
So the other thing that comes to mind we should talk about is you doing interviews. You have developed a very distinctive style of it. and you have the ability to, I don't want to use the word unzip, but I will.
Okay.
You get people to talk about themselves and get honest with you and straight with you and reveal things that, you know, the average viewer would never see or know about. So tell us how you do that.
You know, I don't think there's anything special about what I do. I mean, I think it's rare to have a real conversation for half an hour, which is what I do on the Long Story Short show. And I mean, how often do you even talk to your wife for 1/2 hour straight with no commercials?
We're busy watching.
And I really just, and I do it very differently than I worked as a journalist, which is, when you're a journalist, you have a couple minutes to tell a story, and the story has a certain point. So you tend to ask leading questions because it's a story about a certain subject. In this case, I like to let the subject tell the story their way. So I tend to just ask connecting questions like, and then, and why? And you know, one of my favorite ones, and I try to ask it in a way that's not rude, but, and actually when I was a kid, we joked, and then, and so what? You know, it's actually a so what question. Why does that matter? But I find that people are willing to be
Respond to
unzipped.
that. Yeah. If you convey to them you're really interested in what they have to say, that's half the
And it's
job
not
right
muckraking, it's really just about the essence of who you are and why'd you decide that and how did that get you to this place and what did that, it's really how people think and how they make personal choices that affect lives.
And this is very important because we have to know the public figures in the community, we have to know what they're thinking and doing, we have to make judgments about them. So,
You know, there's a level of trust too. There's a level of trust in PBS Hawaii and then a level of trust in Leslie. You know, we're not beholden to advertisers or specific viewpoints. And PBS nationally has always made a point to you know, have nuanced discussion around issues that are really important and to tell stories in a way that not only respects the storyteller, but those who are involved in it as well. So I think bringing that level of trust is really important.
right, fair witness.
Because a lot of times on Leslie's program, they're talking about very intimate details about their life, what drives them, whether it's in their careers or in their personal lives. And I think you can only get that out of a person if there is that level of trust that you know, PBS Hawaii has had.
Sure, she's not laying in wait, she's not going to ambush them in any way or embarrass them and all that.
But often they've said things on the show that they say they didn't really intend to say, but they felt comfortable enough to say them. And there's a point in people's lives when they're willing to, they've kind of put things together and they're able to synthesize it and they're able to share it. And a couple of people have said things they've never said publicly before, and their sharing that on our program has led to them speaking to a lot of groups of kids who maybe suffered similar types of experiences, or, I mean, it's really broadened out to the community. Roy Sakuma is the best example, the ukulele impresario who revealed, and he said he didn't really intend to, but it just came out, that he'd actually had a life that was, a childhood that was extremely troubling because he was raised by a mother who had acute untreated mental illness, and his brother was also acutely mentally ill. And it was all about not knowing which way was up and when to eat and when to go to school, and what a troubled and even tragic time he had, and how he, and the important thing is how he was able to maneuver through life. And I've always been surprised at the number of kids who come up and say, "Hey, Auntie Leslie, we always watch." And I'm thinking, oh, it's kind of an old fut show, if you might excuse that, because you have to, it's no bells and whistles, it's just conversation.
Yeah.
And it's because they say they don't have role models, and you know, they can listen to how older people did it. They realize, oh, that important man or woman, they had troubles too, and here's what they did, and life wasn't easy for them either, but you know, here's what they did. It's a great learning show.
Yeah. And it's reminiscent of Hawaii style talking story. We used to do more of that in the backyard. Now we do it on PBS.
Aw.
You make it sound so easy, but I wonder what happens when you run into an obstreperous guest or one who, you know, tries to run away with the show. I mean, for example, I give you Evan Dobell. I had Evan Dobell in Hawaii Public Radio, and I said, "Good afternoon, Dr. Dobell." That's the last thing I said. He went on for an hour. I didn't have to say anything else. But, you know, and I didn't know how to stop him. And thoughts about how you control a guest who may be going out of sight?
We were just talking about that today in relation to Insights on PBS Hawaii, because on this day in April, we're going to be doing, we have combatants in the Mauna Kea, the 30-meter telescope discussion coming in.
Well, that's very important
And some
discussion.
people are going to want to launch into a long diatribe or description of, you know, what brought them to this point. They really want to share the history of it, and we want it to be a discussion. So how do you be respectful and yet deflect to a different topic? And culturally, there are different ways to do that in Hawaii too. So we were talking about what is the most respectful way to make sure that everyone gets conversational time and is able to present their viewpoint.
Yes?
Well, I think it's, I don't think you can plan what you're going to say, but I think sitting down with them ahead of time and saying, this is a program that needs to hear from everyone.
I mean, talking to the guests,
right,
trying to get them on board.
Yeah, we don't want to interrupt them and say, excuse me, you know, we'd
That's
like
hard.
to move on. So we let them know ahead of time that here are the rules of the game. They're the rules that are in any real conversation where things matter. You know, you share with each other. So you need to suspend your need to do a soliloquy and grab that time and talk.
Yeah, they need to be educated a little, and of course, the experience of them will change them too. They might leave feeling a little more mellow about the issue than when they came in.
And I personally love it when they say, you know, that's not true, because let's be real. Let's talk to each other, but let's not, you know, get up and castigate each other. You know, I don't feel that what you're saying is correctly presented, and here's what I think.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Also,
Those shows are great.
the flow of the show is actually dictated in large part by the audience. You know, it's the most accessible,
Because the Q&A.
one of the most accessible shows in Hawaii, because we receive, you know, Twitter questions, and we have a phone bank that takes questions live. So if someone wants to someone is very set into what they're going to say for that hour-long program, they have to adjust, because they have to answer questions directly from those who are watching and who are the most invested in the issue. So.
The last thing I want to ask you guys about is your, call it, imported offerings, which are very important to my wife and me. And she is wedded to that English show. What is it again?
Downton Abbey.
Yeah,
Masterpiece
she can
Theater.
identify everything that ever happened, and it's literature. It's literature. It's what it is. But what are the ones that are most popular? Do you know? Do you have stats? Can you figure out through cable exactly how many people are watching it?
Yeah, Ben has seen the numbers on all of those surveys.
What's really popular?
Well, as you mentioned, Downton Abbey, we're going to be entering the 6th and final season of the program. But, you know, in terms of viewership, that's among the highest that PBS and PBS Hawaii has ever seen. The writing is superb. The character development is drawn out over 6 seasons, and you know, it's just a well-done show.
Yeah.
And people enjoy that, and I feel like they enjoy it because there's also no commercial interruptions.
That's
as well.
PBS's version of the once wildly popular American Idol, except this is, you know, it's a little different in terms of what it presents.
What a comparison.
But in terms of audience level, I mean, it's a wild success.
Isn't that interesting?
And you know, we don't, in the vernacular, we don't try to grab eyeballs. We don't get, our success isn't determined by how many people are watching. And often commercial stations may use that by going to the lowest common denominator. Well, that's not our barometer of success. Our barometer, we need to be an alternative television station, and that means we do things that commercial stations don't find it profitable to do. And Downton Abbey costs a lot to I mean, it just wouldn't be something that most commercial stations would take on.
Yeah. What about my personal favorite, Charlie Rose? You know, I have a dream, it's a recurrent dream that one day he's going to come here. You can actually see him and touch him.
Right now, he's on too many
He's
broadcasts to
everywhere.
ever come
I don't
here.
know what happened? He's everywhere. But you know, how does he fare? Do people like him? I sure do. I think he's really opens my mind every time I watch.
And people love him. They love the quality of his questions.
Yeah. It's all about the question.
It is all about the question, Mr. Interviewer. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you for being here, Leslie. Thank you, Ben. Leslie Wilcox, President and CEO of PBS Hawaii, and Ben Nishimoto, Vice President of Advancement And I keep saying and other things because I'm beginning to understand that.
I think we're all and other things, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
New ways, same ideals, and better. Thank you very much. both.
Mahalo.
Thanks for having us.
Aloha.